When I was a kid, I remember my mother taking me to the Mandarin Oriental for the first time to try their signature dish, the wok-fried dover sole with black bean sauce. It was such an eye-opening dish, and for the first time I witnessed the bone being deep fried and became edible. The black bean sauce was not overpowering, but an elegant thin layer that coats the fish with a honey-like texture. It was incredible, and it still is on the menu at the original Mandarin Oriental today. So I thought, why not recreate it exactly how I had it the first time? And of course, the soul of the dish, even though this is dover sole, is the black bean sauce, and we have to make it from scratch. The first stage of black bean sauce making, it's shockingly similar to how you would saute mushrooms in the Western kitchen. The objective of the exercise is to evaporate the excess moisture, concentrate the flavors, and we introduce the optional aromatic vegetables such as the shallot and the garlic. Then we'll start to build other flavors. So to get started, a bit of vegetable oil or any neutral oil you have. A lot of Cantonese chefs, they do this step with a dry wok and then introduce oil after. I've done it both ways and there's very little difference, and it's much quicker to evaporate water content with oil as it has a much higher boiling point. So we move them around. Some recipes, they call for the rinsing of the black bean, A, to get rid of dust, B, to have more control over how salty they are. But if you have a good source of black bean, I find this step unnecessary because you can always adjust the salinity with how much soy sauce you add at the end. So medium-ish heat, we definitely don't want the black beans to burn, because that would make the whole sauce bitter. This is also a wonderful thing to make ahead as they have a pretty long shelf life in your fridge. If you're doing this for the first time, use a non-stick skillet. I'm just using this so you could see the ingredients better. While this is gently evaporating, we mince a bit of shallots and garlic. For 100 grams of black bean, half a shallot would do. About equal part garlic to shallot ratio. Garlic and black bean, they're best friends and they often appear in the same sentence. So, okay to be a bit generous. Perfect. Now, check on black beans. Perfect. When you touch them now, you almost want to feel tiny bit of a crust. So they've had about 10 minutes at medium, low heat. And now we're ready. So, just like my mushroom recipes, first the shallots, because the garlic, they're high in sugar content and they burn much easier. And we sweat them to evaporate their water content, to concentrate their flavors, particularly the sweetness. If it looks dry, you can always add a touch more oil. Perfect. Now that the shallots are translucent, we add a very generous amount of garlic. And once the garlic is fragrant, meaning you can smell that wonderful garlicky goodness, and before they turn too translucent, you want a bit of this garlic taste to balance the strength of the black bean. We deglass with a generous amount of mirin. This is Japanese sweet wine, which of course I'm deviating from the traditional recipe, which normally calls for Shaoxing wine and a very generous amount of sugar. By using the mirin, we're giving the sauce the natural sweetness to balance the salinity of the black beans and giving it a slightly thicker texture from the mirin. So if you have access to mirin, give it a try. If not, Shaoxing wine and a generous amount of sugar to taste. And wow, that's reducing. We scrape the bottom, any potential fond, burn bits, flavors, in this case not much. Now, once you can no longer smell the alcohol, you can see the mirin has given you a slightly syrupy texture. We add our soy sauce. This is just light soy sauce because we want the salinity and the umami. The black bean by definition is giving us the color anyway, so there's no need for dark soy. And we cook out the soy sauce a bit. Given the high amount of soy protein and the temperature plus the length of cooking, we are in essence triggering the Maillard reaction, giving the sauce a very complex flavor. Once the soy sauce had a chance to reduce a tiny bit, we add a very generous amount of oyster sauce. Again, this would add a ton of umami to the dish and thicken it slightly. Now, you taste, and not just the liquid. Make sure you take a black bean with you so you could gauge the texture. Perfect. Now, we cover this with just enough water to really cook out the black beans. Let the flavors emulsify. How soft you want your beans, it's a personal choice. If you're using it to steam other ingredients and you want them to still have a bite, I would give it 5 minutes. If you want them to be very soft to the point that they're almost disintegrating, about 20 minutes, which is what we're gonna do today, because from Mandarin Oriental's recipe, the black bean sauce is so smooth that you can't even see the black beans. While the black bean sauce is simmering away, we deal with the other star of the show, the dover sole. Now, this has been skinned by the fishmonger, because the skin of dover sole in the UK at least could be on the chewy side. All we need to do is we fillet most of it. I remember at the Mandarin, they kept about this much flesh on the tail when they fried it. So when you ate the bone, you actually get a bit of flesh with it. And we'll do exactly the same today. So we'll keep this much from the tail end and we start making an incision here. And we go. The beauty of this dish is that you could take comfort knowing we'll fry the bone. So whatever you don't take with you, you still get to eat. Perfect. Brilliant. Now we go to the other side and do the same. Now, purely for presentation's sake, we remove the head, save this for a stock, we portion this all, and this is ready to go when we're happy with the consistency of our black bean sauce. Now, the black bean sauce has had about 20 minutes and they've taken on this wonderful texture, barely holding their shapes. And that's when we know it's good to go. They come out. And now, let's cook the fish. We bring out the big boy. I mean, it has wok-fried in its name, so we kind of have to. We add a very generous amount of oil to our wok and we bring it to about 160 degrees Celsius to fry the bone. So here, I have a 50-50 mix of potato starch and cornstarch. In traditional Cantonese cooking, it's mostly cornstarch, but I find potato starch would give you a crispier finish. And to that, we add a generous amount of salt and we grab the bone and you just want to dust it, not too much. And initially to form the shape, you want to hold it on either end and lower it very gently. Use a pair of tongs if necessary. All right, once everything is golden brown and the iconic shape has been achieved, we line a plate with some kitchen towel and we set this beauty aside to remove the excess fat. Now, to par cook the fish and help the fish cling on to this wonderful, wonderful sauce, we are going to very quickly fry our fish fillets before we cook them. So, same shebang, a very thin coating. So, in. And don't crowd the wok, otherwise you will lower the temperature too much. And literally, 30 seconds, they come out. No need for even color because the black bean sauce will do that job for us. Next batch. Perfect. And they curl up so beautifully. Wonderful. Now, to finish the dish, we remove most of the oil, adding back just a tiny dash. And we bring some heat back. Once the wok is hot again, we add a very generous amount of mirin. Once again, to generate that beautiful honey-like glaze for the dish. And cook it out until it's syrupy. Now, generous amount of black bean. And we really break them apart. The fish, they go back in. Once they all have a nice coating of this beautiful sauce, stove off and we can plate. Here we have some blanched choy for the plating. 8 of those, of course. We have this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful bone and the most wonderful fish. And how beautiful is that? This is Mandarin Oriental's wok-fried Dover sole with black bean sauce. I'm a fan.